A man walks into a Nazi officer's office. In his hand, a bread knife. He doesn't hesitate. He drives it in, again and again. With every single stab, he speaks out loud the names of the people this monster helped murder. His father, his brother, his brother. Every Jew who never got a chance to fight back. This is not fiction. This is not a movie. This happened on October 14th, 1943, inside one of history's most savage death camps. And the man who did it was Chaim Engel, a quiet Polish Jewish textile worker who was pushed so far past human breaking point that he became something else entirely. This is his story, and it will change how you see the word survival forever. Before we go any further, if you're new to War Heroes, hit that subscribe button right now. We tell the stories that textbooks skip, the ones that are almost too real to believe. Stay with us. This one matters. September 1, 1939. Before sunrise, the ground shook. More than 2,000 German tanks rolled across the Polish border. Nearly 900 bombers blackened the sky. Over 1.5 million soldiers flooded into a country that never stood a chance. Not against that kind of firepower. Nazi Germany had staged a fake attack on one of its own radio stations, dressed concentration camp prisoners in Polish uniforms, shot them, and photographed the evidence. Then Hitler pointed at Poland and called it retaliation. The world had a new word for what happened next: blitzkrieg, lightning war. By the time Britain and France declared war on Germany on September 3rd, Poland was already bleeding out. Then came the second night. On September 17th, the Soviet Union invaded from the east, a move pre-planned in secret through the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, signed just 1 week before the war began. Poland was being carved alive from both sides. By October 6th, the last Polish unit had surrendered. The country was gone. What followed wasn't just occupation. It was systematic destruction. The Nazis didn't just want Polish land, they wanted to erase Polish identity. In the first 3 months alone, over 60,000 Polish officials, military officers, priests, teachers, lawyers, and scientists were executed in what the SS called the intelligentsia action, murder, organized like a filing system. Then came A.B. Junction. In the spring of 1940, a second wave designed to kill anyone left who might inspire resistance. For Poland's Jewish population, it was something even darker. Approximately 1.8 million Jews in German-occupied territory were forced into sealed ghettos. After Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941, the deportations began. 3 million Polish Jews loaded onto trains, heading toward death. Among them was a 23-year-old man from Łódź named Chaim Engel. Chaim was born on January 10th, 1916, in the small town of Brudzew, Poland. When he was just 5 years old, violent anti-Jewish pogroms tore through his town. His family fled to Łódź, the industrial heartland of Poland, where they settled into a tight-knit Jewish neighborhood. His mother died of tuberculosis while Chaim was still a young man. He went to work at his uncle's textile factory. Quiet work, honest work, the kind of life that asked nothing of the world except to be left alone. He was weeks away from finishing his mandatory military service when Germany invaded. The war had come for him, personally. When Jewish prisoners of war were released back to Poland in March 1940, Chaim was among them. He found work at a farm near Lublin. One day, a young German soldier struck up a conversation with him, not knowing Chaim was Jewish, because Chaim spoke fluent German. The soldier talked like he was proud. He described how he had found a Jewish girl, raped her, and mutilated her with his bayonet. He said it like he was telling a war story, like it was something worth bragging about. Chaim stood there, he listened, and something inside him, something quiet and controlled, filed that moment away permanently. In November 1942, Chaim Engel, his brother, and nearly 1,000 others were loaded onto trains and transported to Sobibor, one of 3 death camps built specifically For Operation Reinhard, the Nazi German planned to murder every single Jew in occupied Poland. Roughly 2 million people. Gone. Sobibor was designed like a lie. A neat rectangular compound surrounded by double barbed wire fences woven with tree branches so no one could see inside. The SS officers lived in cottages with cheerful pastoral names. There were flowers near the entrance. When new transports arrived, an SS officer would greet the crowd with a friendly speech. "You're at a transit camp," he'd say. "You'll shower, get a meal, and continue your journey." The showers were gas chambers. Within 20 to 30 minutes of entering, everyone inside was dead. About 250,000 people were murdered at Sobibor, most of them within hours of stepping off the train. When Chaim's transport arrived, he was pulled from the column, one of only 18 or 20 people from the entire transport selected for labor. His brother was not chosen. Chaim was assigned to sort through the clothing of the dead. One day, he picked up a bundle of garments and recognized them, his brother's clothes. Still folded, family photographs tucked inside. He already knew. He'd been told by other inmates within days of arriving. His father and stepmother had come to Sobibor 5 months earlier. They were gassed the same day they arrived. While sorting through clothing, Chaim found something else. A note, stitched into the lining of a coat, written by prisoners from Belzec who had been brought to Sobibor and shot on arrival. The note read, "We worked at Belzec for 1 year and did not know where we would be sent next. They said it would be Germany. Now we are in Sobibor and know what to expect. Be aware that you will be killed also. Avenge us." He read those words and kept them. Between transports, the SS personnel played cards, drank, made music. One guard, a former champion boxer, had a specially weighted whip made for himself and counted how many blows it took to kill a person. As a reward for their work, the Sobibor staff was treated to an official group trip to Berlin and Potsdam. Once, during a roll call execution where every 10th man in line was shot, Chaim was number 9. In April 1943, a transport arrived from the Netherlands. 2019 Jewish men, women, and children. Among them was Selma Wittenberg, a 21-year-old Dutch Jewish woman who had been rounded up in the systematic deportation of Dutch Jews that began in 1942. She was pulled from the column and assigned to labor just as Chaim had been. They found each other inside those fences. Inside a place designed to erase people, 2 people began to fall in love. They talked about the world outside. They whispered plans. In a camp built for death, they chose each other. Quietly, stubbornly, completely. By the summer of 1943, rumors were circulating that Sobibor would soon shut down. The prisoners understood exactly what that meant. Every prisoner who had previously worked at Belzec, a camp that closed before them, had been brought to Sobibor and shot on arrival. Their clothes arrived the next morning soaked in blood. Closing Sobibor meant killing everyone inside it. In September 1943, 20 Jewish Red Army soldiers arrived at Sobibor on a transport from the Minsk ghetto. They had military training, they had tactical experience, and one of them, Alexander Petrsky, had the kind of cold, focused mind that turns desperation into a plan. The revolt was scheduled for October 14, 1943 at 4 p.m. The strategy was elegant in its brutality. Lure SS officers one by one to private appointments, a tailoring session, a storage visit, and kill them silently before anyone noticed. Then, in the chaos of the shift change, break for the fences. The first to die was Johann Niemann, the deputy commander of Sobibor and the highest-ranking SS officer on duty that day. He was lured to the tailor's barracks with the promise of being fitted for a leather jacket. One, quote, "Ew." When he arrived, armed as always with his pistol and whip, he was asked to remove his holster and try the jacket on. When he turned to check the fit in the back, Alexander Shubayev swung an axe into the back of his skull. Niemann was dead before he hit the floor. But one operation hit a complication. The prisoner assigned to kill Rudolf Beckmann an SS administrator, lost his nerve at the last moment and refused to go in. Chaim Engel volunteered. He walked into the administration building with a capo named Pozicki. Beckman was at his desk. While Pozicki grabbed Beckman from behind, Chaim drove a bread knife into him. Once, twice, again, and again. With every stab, he said it out loud. "This is for my father. This is for my brother. This is for every Jew you helped kill." Beckman fought back hard enough to make Chaim's blade slip, cutting deep into Chaim's own hand. Blood covered both of them. Chaim didn't stop. When it was over, they shoved Beckman's body under his desk, grabbed his rifle, and walked out. Selma was waiting outside. She cleaned the blood off Chaim's face with her bare hands, wrapped his wound, and didn't say a word about stopping. In total, 11 SS officers were killed by the prisoners that afternoon. Then the camp collapsed into chaos. Prisoners ran for the fences, through minefields, under machine gun fire. Some stepped on mines. Some couldn't make themselves run and stayed behind, and were killed. Approximately 300 prisoners broke through. Most were hunted down in the days that followed. Only around 50 survivors made it through the war. Heinrich Himmler ordered Sobibor demolished immediately after the revolt. The Nazis leveled the buildings, planted crops over the mass graves, and tried to make the world forget it ever existed. Chaim and Selma ran into the forest. For 2 weeks they moved only at night, hiding in fields and barns, surviving on almost nothing. They had taken diamonds, gold coins, and jewelry from the clothing of murdered prisoners while still inside the camp, knowing that one day those valuables might save their lives. They did. Polish farmers sheltered them in exchange for those valuables. For 9 months, Chaim and Selma hid in a hayloft, unable to go outside, covered in lice, rationing every scrap of food. In the dark of that barn, they learned each other's languages, wrote a diary together documenting everything they had witnessed at Sobibor, and quietly, with no ceremony, decided they were married. The Red Army liberated them on July 23, 1944. When Selma reached for the dress she had saved for that day, 9 months, carefully folded, it no longer fit. She was pregnant. They married officially in Brudzew. Their son Emilje was born, but Poland was still dangerous for Jews, and the family fled west. Their son Emilje died during a sea voyage from Odessa to Marseille, a grief that never fully left them. They eventually settled in the Netherlands, had 2 more children, Alida and Ferdinand, and ran Selma's family hotel. But Dutch authorities declared that Selma had lost her citizenship by marrying a Polish man, and the government attempted to deport them both back to Poland. They fought it. They stayed. In 1951, they moved to Israel. In 1957, they came to the United States, where Chaim built a jewelry business, and they made a home in Connecticut. For over 25 years, well into the 1980s and beyond, Chaim and Selma drove to schools, community centers, and libraries across Connecticut and nearby states. They told their story to anyone who would listen, not because it was easy, because 17 million Jews killed under Operation Reinhard would never get to tell theirs. The Nazis had tried to erase every trace of that operation, bulldozing the camps, growing crops over the graves, even building a fake manor house at Belzec to disguise a burial site. Chaim and Selma refused to let it work. Chaim Engel passed away in 2003 at the age of 87. Selma died in 2018 at 96. They were surrounded by children and grandchildren who exist because 2 people inside a death camp chose, against every odd, to survive together. If this story hit you the way it should, share it, put it in front of someone who needs to hear it. At War Heroes, we don't do surface-level history. We go into the records, the testimonies, the moments that were almost lost forever, and we bring them back, because stories like Chaim and Selma's are not just history. They are warnings, they are proof, and they deserve to be heard. Subscribe to War Heroes, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next story.